Welcome back to the deep dive. We are continuing our journey through the architecture of the human mind, and today we're tackling a topic that I think a lot of us feel in our bones, even if we don't really have a word for it.
Hmm.
You know, that specific type of exhaustion where you've been working incredibly hard, you're wiped out at the end of the day, but you look back and feel like you've just moved sideways,
Yeah,
like you're just drifting.
it is a terrible feeling. It's the difference between motion and action, or, to use the source material we're looking at today, the stark difference between drifting and steering.
Exactly. We are looking at episode 4 of our series on James Allen's As a Man Thinketh, specifically the chapter titled Thought and Purpose.
Right.
But as always, we're not just staying in the early 20th century with Allen. We're layering this with the ancient wisdom of the Stoics, specifically Epictetus and Marcus Aurelius, and we're bringing in some heavy hitters from modern behavioral science.
Yeah, specifically around habit formation and cognitive behavioral therapy.
And it's such a powerful combination, isn't it?
It really is.
Yeah.
Because Alan gives us this poetic, almost moral argument for why purpose matters.
Right, the soul of it.
The soul of it, yeah. And the Stoics come in and give us the philosophical framework, the real how-to of the mind. And then modern science just confirms it all. It tells us why our brains actually prefer purpose over, aimlessness.
And before we get started, I want to ask you, the listener, do you ever feel like your attention is just scattered? Like you're reacting to emails, to people, to the news, and you're just kind of floating along with the current? If that sounds familiar, this conversation is for you. If this episode helps you, please hit like and subscribe for the next one.
That concept of floating or drifting is exactly where James Allen starts.
Yeah.
And honestly, he does not pull any punches here.
No, he doesn't.
It's one of the things I really appreciate about him. He actually identifies aimlessness not just as a mistake or, time management issue, but as a vice.
A vice. That is a heavy word. Usually we think of vices as, I don't know, gambling, drinking, or some kind of immoral behavior. But Allen places aimlessness right up there on that list. Why go that far?
It does sound harsh at first, but you have to look at the consequences. Allen argues that the drifting mind, the mind without a central purpose, it sort of becomes an open door.
An open door for what?
For worry, fear, self-pity, and all these petty troubles. He writes, drifting must not continue for him who would steer clear of catastrophe and destruction.
Wow. So catastrophe and destruction.
Yes, the argument is that nature abhors a vacuum. If you don't deliberately fill your mind with a directed purpose, the weeds of anxiety and worry will they'll fill it automatically.
So it's a sin of omission then. You're not necessarily doing something evil, but by failing to steer, you are inviting destruction.
Precisely. The core thesis here, and this is really the foundation for our whole conversation, is until thought is linked with purpose, there is no intelligent accomplishment.
Until thought is linked with purpose.
Right. Without that link, you're just a bundle of wavering thoughts and fluctuating sensations. You become a thermometer just reacting to the temperature of the room.
Instead of a thermostat, which sets the temperature.
Exactly. You become a thermostat, you set the conditions.
I love that distinction. But let's unpack this word purpose. I think purpose is one of those words that has been hijacked by the self-help industry. It sounds so intimidating.
It really does.
Like if I don't have a burning desire to save the rainforests or, I don't know, invent a new rocket ship by next Tuesday, then I just have no purpose.
Right, and that's a huge misunderstanding. The sources we're looking at, they define it much more pragmatically.
How so?
They do, and this is a critical distinction we need to make early on. In this context, purpose does not necessarily mean a grand mystical destiny.
Okay.
It's not about finding your soulmate career or winning a Nobel Prize. It defines purpose in very plain English. It's a chosen aim. It's a centralizing point for your thoughts.
A centralizing point. I like that. It sounds much more manageable.
It is. Think about the metaphor Allen uses. He talks about the bark of thought, a small boat drifting on the ocean of life. If you don't have a rudder, which is your purpose, you are at the mercy of every single wave. And those waves are your moods, your circumstances, the opinions of other people.
And the algorithm. We have to mention the algorithm.
Absolutely. We have to. In Allen's time, the waves were, local gossip or newspapers.
Sure. Small ripples.
Small ripples. Today, the waves are a tidal wave of information designed specifically to hijack your attention. The news feed is essentially a stream of other people's priorities.
That is so true.
And if you don't have a centralizing point to filter that out, you are going to get capsized. You'll spend your whole day just reacting to what other people think is important for you to see.
This reminds me of the Aristotle reference in our notes, the idea of the archer.
Yes, the telos. Aristotle famously said that we are like archers who need a mark to aim at.
Right.
If you don't have a target, it is literally impossible to hit the mark. You're just shooting arrows into the air, hoping for the best.
And Alan is saying the same thing.
Exactly the same thing. You need a specific target. It could be a spiritual ideal, like becoming a more patient person, or it could be a worldly object, like getting out of debt or building a business. What actually matters less than the fact that it exists.
So it acts as a filter. That's the practical utility of it. If I have a purpose of, say, writing a book, then when I have a free hour, I know exactly what to do with it.
Yes.
If I don't have that purpose, that hour gets eaten up by, well, probably scrolling or, reorganizing my desk for the fifth time.
Right. It automates the decision-making process.
Yeah.
And this brings us right to the science of it, specifically around decision fatigue.
Okay, walk us through that. What is decision fatigue?
So the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for complex decision-making, it has a limited capacity. It's like a battery.
Right, it runs out.
It runs out.
Yeah.
When you're drifting, you are forcing your brain to make a fresh decision for every single interaction. Should I read this email? Should I eat this cookie? Should I watch this clip?
Every little thing is a choice.
It's a negotiation. Because you have no standard to live by, every choice drains that battery.
And that's why you feel so wiped out, even if you haven't done much real work.
It exhausts it. That's why by 4 in the afternoon, you can't focus. But when you have a purpose, a centralizing point, you pre-make those decisions. You look at something and ask, does this align with the purpose?
And if the answer is no,
Then you ignore it. The decision is already made. It saves your cognitive energy for the actual work.
and that exhaustion from drifting, from all that decision-making, that leads to what Alan calls weakness.
Exactly. And he says that in a universe that evolves toward power and complexity, weakness cannot persist. It just naturally leads to misery.
Let's dive deeper into this drift problem, because I think most of us live there, at least partially.
Yeah, for sure.
We have the symptom of scattered attention, we're trying to do everything, and we end up accomplishing nothing.
It's the classic mile wide and an inch deep.
Right.
But there's a deeper psychological mechanism at play here, which connects directly to the Stoic idea of the discipline of ascent.
The discipline of ascent. This is from Epictetus, right? Break that down for us.
Yes, Epictetus. He taught that the human mind deals with 3 main areas: desire, action, and ascent. Ascent is the gatekeeper.
The gatekeeper.
Yes, we are constantly bombarded by impressions, thoughts, events, sudden desires. The drifting mind gives assent to all of them, indiscriminately.
So a thought comes in, I'm worried about the economy, and the drifting mind says,
It says, yes, let's worry about that. Let's really spin out on that. Or a desire comes in, I want a donut, and the drifting mind says, yes, let's eat that right now.
I feel seen.
We all do. It's the default state of the untrained mind. But the purposeful mind, the mind with a centralizing point, it exercises the discipline of assent.
How does it do that?
It looks at the impression, the worry, the donut, angry email, and it asks a critical question. Does this align with my purpose? If the answer is no, it rejects it. It refuses to drift along with the impulse.
So the drift is really a lack of filtering. It's reactive living.
It is having an external locus of control. That's the psychological term for it. Explain that.
It means you believe that the environment, or other people, or luck, dictate your life. Alan is arguing for a radical internal locus of control. He says you are the conscious master. You are the one who sets the sail.
And the consequence of not doing this, Alan uses pretty dark language here. He says aimlessness leads to destruction. Not because you're evil, but because you're weak.
That's a fascinating point, isn't it? We tend to think that bad things happen because of sins, deliberately doing bad things.
Right, malice.
Malice. But Alan says no, most failure comes from simply not holding a straight line. It comes from the weakness of the drift.
It's like if you let go of the steering wheel on the highway. You're not trying to crash. You're not a bad person.
No.
But you are going to crash because you're not steering.
That is the perfect analogy. The laws of physics, or in this case, the laws of psychology and circumstance, they don't care about your intentions if your actions are random.
And this brings us to the modern concept of goal clarity, right? Research in behavioral science shows that ambiguity is the enemy of execution. If your brain doesn't have a clear picture of what it's supposed to be doing, it defaults to energy conservation. It defaults to the path of least resistance.
Which is usually the couch.
Or the smartphone. Always the smartphone.
Okay, so we've defined the problem. The drift is a vice. It makes us weak, reactive, and tired. Now, let's get into the solution, the how-to. Our outline breaks this down into 4 steps. Let's start with step 1. Choose a purpose.
Right. And again, Alan says this purpose can be a spiritual ideal or a worldly object. The key requirement, the only one that matters, is that it must be the centralizing point of your thoughts.
I want to push on this a bit. Centralizing point sounds singular. Can you only have one? Because life is complex. I want to be healthy, wealthy, and a good parent. Can I have 3 centralizing points?
That's a common point of friction, and it's a great question. In practice, you can have goals in different areas, but Alan and modern focused researchers like Cal Newport would argue that you need a hierarchy.
A hierarchy.
Yes. You need a keystone purpose for a given season of life. If you try to maximize everything simultaneously, you're right back to drifting. You're splitting your forces.
So it's about prioritization. For this month or this quarter, this is the number one thing.
Yes. A centralizing point means there's one major thing that organizes your hierarchy of values right now. It simplifies the conflict between competing goods.
Okay, that makes sense. So, step 2. Align your thinking. This seems to be where the real work is.
This is the hardest part, I think. Alan says you must focus your thought forces on the object. But then he says something very, very strict. He says doubts and fears must be rigorously excluded.
Rigorously excluded. That sounds repressive. I mean, isn't it healthy to have doubts? We're taught to be critical thinkers.
Sure.
If I'm launching a business, shouldn't I be doubting my strategy to find the holes in it?
That's a valid pushback. But we have to distinguish between critical analysis and doubt, as Alan defines it. Critical thinking is what you do before you set the course. You look at the map, you check the weather, you analyze the risks. That's intelligence.
So that's allowed.
That is mandatory. But doubt, in this context, is the nagging voice after you have set sail that says, maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe the map is wrong. Maybe I should turn back.
I see.
Alan calls these disintegrating elements. He says they break up the straight line of effort.
So it's the difference between checking the engine before you drive and pumping the brakes while you're trying to accelerate on the highway.
Exactly. That's a perfect way to put it. Geometrically, a straight line is the shortest distance between 2 points. Doubt creates a crooked line.
Oh, so?
You take 3 steps forward, then doubt makes you stop. Look around, maybe take a step back. You're expending energy, but you're not covering distance.
That makes sense. It's not about suppressing emotions. It's about not letting those emotions derail the action.
The Stoics would say it's about not giving assent to the doubt. You might feel the fear. That's biological. That's your amygdala firing. But you don't have to agree with it. You don't have to let it steer the boat.
Okay, so we exclude the doubt. We keep the mental line straight. Step 3 is align your actions. How do we take this abstract purpose and make it real on a Tuesday morning?
This is where we look at modern science, specifically implementation intentions. This is a concept from Peter Gollwitzer, a psychologist at NYU.
Implementation intentions.
It's the idea that you need to map out the straight path using specific if-then plans.
If-then plans. Give me an example.
Okay, let's say your purpose is to write a novel. A vague intention is, I want to write. That leaves way too much room for the drift.
Right, when I feel inspired.
Exactly. An implementation intention is, if it is 7 in the morning and I have my coffee, then I will sit at my desk and write 500 words.
You're automating the discipline. You're taking the decision out of it.
Precisely. You're taking the decision-making out of the moment. You don't have to decide if you're going to write. The decision has already been made by your past self for your present self.
And this connects to the Stoic idea of action, too, doesn't it?
It does. Very deeply. The Stoics believed in doing the work fate permitting. You focus entirely on the effort, the straight line of action, but you detach from the outcome.
Detach from the outcome.
Yeah. You write the book because that is your purpose, because that is who you are, not necessarily because you can control whether it becomes a bestseller.
That distinction is huge, because if your purpose is I want to be a bestseller, you're relying on things outside your control, the market, the critics, luck.
All of it.
But if your purpose is I am a person who writes every day, that is entirely up to you.
And that leads us perfectly into step 4. Remove contradictions.
Weeding the garden. I like this metaphor.
It's a great one. Alan says you cannot have a purpose of health and harbor thoughts of indulgence. They are contradictory. You have to actively weed out the thoughts and actions that don't align with the centralizing point.
This sounds a lot like James Clear's work on identity-based habits.
It is the exact same principle, just a century earlier. Clear argues, and the research supports this, that you have to become the person who achieves the purpose.
Not just do the thing.
Right. You don't just run. You become a runner. You don't just save money. You become a fiscally responsible person. The identity shift is everything.
So if I say my purpose is to get in shape, but I keep telling myself I'm just lazy, I love pizza too much, I'm harboring a contradiction.
A massive one.
Yeah.
And that contradiction will sabotage you every single time. Alan would say, you're trying to sail north while steering south.
You're fighting yourself.
You're fighting yourself. You have to align your identity, your self-talk, with the destination. This is where cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, comes in. You have to catch those contradictory thoughts, I'm lazy, and reframe them. I am building discipline.
Let's make this really concrete. We have 3 practical examples to walk through. The first one is work. I think a lot of our listeners struggle with the drift at work.
Oh, absolutely.
You sit down, you open your laptop, and suddenly it's 5 o'clock and you don't know what happened.
That is the classic busy but not effective trap. The drift at work looks like answering every email immediately. It looks like saying yes to every meeting request. It's totally reactive.
You're letting your inbox dictate your life.
100%.
Yeah.
So how do we apply the thought and purpose method here? The shift is moving from being busy to being purposeful.
Okay, what does that look like?
You set a centralizing point for your workday. Maybe it's deep work, a concept from Cal Newport. Maybe your purpose for the day is, I am going to complete this one major project. That's the target.
And then you rigorously exclude the contradictions.
Right. That means you turn off notifications, you close the email tab, you refuse to drift into the petty distractions that feel urgent but aren't important.
Alan calls this the faultless performance of duty.
I love that phrase. It's so powerful. Even if your task is small, you do it with absolute focus.
It elevates even the boring stuff. It makes it a practice of character.
Exactly. You're not just filing your report. You are training your mind to hold a straight line. You are practicing the skill of focus, which is a superpower in our modern world.
Okay, example 2, relationships. This one is tricky because, unlike a report, people talk back.
They do.
They have their own wills. How does purpose work here?
This is where the Stoic framework is absolutely essential. A lot of people set a purpose in relationships that is actually about control.
What do you mean by that?
Like, my purpose is to make my partner more organized, or my purpose is to get my kids to listen to me.
And that's just a recipe for misery.
It's a recipe for misery because it's entirely outside your control. You're drifting into other people's lanes. The shift here is to view purpose as a standard you live by.
So an internal purpose.
An internal one. Your purpose might be, I am a steady, patient partner, or I am a calm and loving parent.
I see. So when your partner leaves the dishes in the sink again, instead of reacting, which is the drift, you align with your purpose.
Yes. You pause and you ask yourself, what would a steady, patient partner do right now?
And the answer probably isn't yelling.
Probably not. Maybe you have a conversation about it, but you do it from a place of calm purpose, not reactive anger. You control your reaction, which is yours, and you accept their behavior, which is theirs.
It changes the game from fixing them to mastering yourself.
And ironically, that is usually the only thing that actually influences them to change. When you stop drifting into their chaos and you stand firm in your own purpose, you change the entire dynamic of the relationship.
Okay, example 3, habits. We touched on this, but let's go deeper. The shift from mood-based routines to purpose-based routines.
This is the difference between the amateur and the professional in any field. The amateur goes to the gym when they feel motivated.
Right, when the mood strikes.
The professional goes because it's Tuesday, because that's what they do.
Alan says waiting for motivation is a huge mistake.
He says action creates motivation. Purpose is a duty, not a mood. If you wait until you feel like it to align your thoughts, you will be drifting forever. The feeling follows the action, not the other way around.
And the science backs this up with neuroplasticity, right? The idea that we can rewire our brains.
Absolutely. This is the biology of habit. Every time you repeat behavior, you thicken the myelin sheath around that neural pathway. It becomes faster, more automatic, more efficient.
So you're literally paving a road in your brain.
You're paving a road.
Yeah.
If you only work out when you're happy, you're building a weak little dirt path. But if you work out when you're tired, grumpy, and busy, you're building a robust 4-lane highway that says, I am a person who trains regardless of circumstance.
You are literally rewiring your brain to align with your purpose.
It's the identity-based habit again. You're proving to yourself with evidence who you are.
James Clear talks about casting a vote for your identity.
Yes. Every time you choose the purpose over the drift, you cast a vote. Eventually, the election is won. You are that person. It's no longer a debate.
I love that. Okay, I want to move to something very practical now. We've talked about the theory, we've given examples. I want to do a guided exercise, a purpose alignment reset.
This is a great way to catch yourself if you've been drifting. Little course correction.
So, listener, if you're driving, please keep your eyes on the road. But if you can, take a second to think along with us. We're going to do this in 6 steps.
Step 1. Name one area where you feel the drift. Be honest. Is it your finances, your health, your morning routine? Where do you feel scattered and reactive? Just pick one.
Got it. Okay. Step 2. Choose a clean purpose statement for that area. Keep it simple and positive. Not, I want to stop being broke, but I am building financial freedom.
Or not, I need to stop eating junk, but I am a healthy eater. See the difference?
It's an identity statement.
Okay.
Step 3. Identify one thought pattern that contradicts it. What is the weed in the garden? Is it the thought, I deserve this treat right now? Is it, I'll start tomorrow?
What's the little voice that pulls you off course?
Be honest with yourself. Catch that thought. Now, step 4. Replace it with a stronger direction statement. If the weed is, I deserve a treat, the replacement is, my future freedom is worth more than this impulse.
Or if the weed is, I'll start tomorrow, the replacement could be, a person of discipline starts now.
Love that. Okay, step 5. Choose one small action you will do today that matches the purpose. Just one. Don't overwhelm yourself.
Yeah, transfer $10 to savings, do 10 push-ups, send that one important email, cast one vote.
And finally, step 6. Remove one contradiction from your environment.
This is key.
Delete the shopping app from your phone. Throw away the junk food in the pantry. Turn off the notification that always distracts you. Make it easier to stay on course.
And just by doing that simple 6-step process, you've just moved from drifting to steering. It is that simple and it's that difficult.
It is simple, but it is not easy. And that brings us to the common mistakes. We've identified 5 big ones that trip people up when they try to do this.
Mistake 1, waiting for motivation. We just talked about this. Motivation is a fair weather friend. Purpose is a loyal soldier.
Don't wait for the feeling. Do the duty.
Exactly.
Mistake 2, too many purposes.
Yes, the centralizing point again. You cannot steer a boat in 2 directions at once. Pick one major focus to start.
So don't try to fix everything at once.
No. If you try to overhaul your health, your career, your relationships, and your spirituality all on Monday morning, you will crash by Wednesday. It's too much cognitive load. Pick one and build momentum.
Okay. Mistake 3, fearing failure. Alan has a very interesting take on this, a very counterintuitive one.
He says failure is a pathway to attainment. This is crucial. If you're drifting, you never really fail, you just exist. You float.
There's nothing to fail at.
Right. But if you have a purpose, you will fail. You will miss the mark. Alan says that's okay. The effort builds strength of character.
So failure is actually proof that you're aiming at something.
Exactly. It's data. It's resistance training for the soul. Every time you miss the mark and get back up to aim again, you are stronger than the person who never aimed at all.
Mistake 4, focusing on the outcome, not the character.
This goes right back to the Stoics. If you focus only on getting the $1 million, you will be anxious, you'll be tempted to cut corners, and if you don't get it, you'll feel destroyed.
But if you focus on the character...
If you focus on becoming a person of value and discipline, the money often follows. But even if it doesn't, you've kept your integrity. You've won the real prize. Focus on who you are becoming.
And mistake 5, letting doubt creep in.
The virus in the software. Alan is so adamant about this. You must rigorously exclude doubt. Not because you're delusional, but because doubt kills momentum.
It breaks the straight line.
It breaks the straight line. When you're in the middle of the ocean, you cannot afford to doubt the compass. You have to trust the heading you set in the harbor.
That phrase, rigorously excluded, is going to stick with me. It implies an act of defense. You have to be the bouncer at the door of your mind.
That is a great image. You are the bouncer. Doubt tries to get in. You say, sorry, not on the list. You don't argue with it. You just don't let it in.
So let's recap. We have covered a lot of ground today. Here are the key takeaways from our conversation on thought and purpose.
First, purpose organizes the mind. Without it, we drift and we waste our energy.
Next, drift isn't just a waste of time. It leads to weakness and unhappiness. Alan would call it a vice.
Third, you must choose a centralizing point for your thoughts, a specific aim to guide you and simplify your decisions.
Fourth, doubt and fear break the straight line of effort. You must exclude them rigorously to maintain your momentum.
Fifth, failure is just a step in building strength. Don't fear it. Use it as feedback.
Sixth, align your daily actions with your chosen identity using implementation intentions, those if-then plans.
And finally, strength of character is the ultimate measure of success, not the external rewards.
It really changes the way you look at your day, doesn't it? It stops being about getting through the day and starts being about steering through it.
It restores your agency. You're no longer a victim of circumstance. You are the creator of your own condition.
And that leads us perfectly to our tease for the next episode. We've talked about thought and character, thought and circumstance, and now thought and purpose. Next time, we're going to see where all this leads.
Yes. Episode 5 is Thought and Achievement. We're going to discuss how purpose, once it's established and held, naturally leads to tangible results in the world. We're moving from the internal to the external.
I cannot wait for that. But for now, we want to leave you with a final provocative thought to mull over. We often think we're held back by the economy or our boss or our upbringing. But what if that's not true?
A man is not manacled by fate, but by his own lack of direction.
Thanks for being here. If you want the full series, check the playlist, and please like and subscribe so you don't miss the next episode.